What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another video. I'm Anderson, and today we will be recapping episode 7 of Survivor Season 50. Today I am here just by myself, just me, because of mostly my schedule. I didn't really have time to coordinate with anyone for this one. Hopefully next week we'll be back here with someone else, so I'm not just by myself. But for the time being, you've got me. So without further ado, let's get right into this episode. I think it was a good episode. It wasn't amazing or anything. It wasn't bad either. And that's all I'm gonna say. Let's get right into it. So the first group from Tribal Council arrives back at camp, and Tiffany is super upset about Camilla going home. Tiffany is super mad, but she's telling herself that she has to stay calm so that people don't target her because of that. Then Aubry and Rick and Christian in that group come back, and Aubry goes to tell Rick that she forgot to play her idol. Rick goes to tell Christian that, and they don't believe it. They think that she just wanted to keep it, and they're mad at her for not saying that. And Christian goes and tells literally everyone else about that as well, which is an interesting choice from Christian. Then the next group comes back. And everyone realizes Colby's the one that went out there sad about it, just like I was sad about it last week. Coach and Jonathan are talking. They're talking about Colby being gone and how they need to get Dee, Tiffany, and Aubry out. I guess they just don't get along with them at all. They say they're ready to go to war. Tiffany goes to Dee and tells her what happened with Jonathan flipping on Camilla. Dee goes to confront Coach. And then Jonathan ends up jumping in, and they get into a huge, big argument about that, and they end up fighting a lot. So a lot went on, and this was all within the first few minutes of the episode. A lot happened already. We kind of for the most part have 3 groups of 3, and then the stragglers. After what happened, with the exception being Coach kind of latched on to Jonathan and them at the moment. No one seems to be in a particularly better spot than anyone else, with the exception of Joe and Tiffany just kind of being alone at the moment. But I feel like Jonathan's plan, he had a plan here where he was trying to get Dee all riled up so that she'd start an argument, and then he could use that to get her out. I think It was kind of smart. I'll give it to him. I wanted him to be voted out this episode for the sake of getting him out of here. But I'll give it to him. It was a good move. He's clearly learned from Boston Rob, who trained him before the season, and he's doing well for himself there. That was a smart thing to do, I think. Then Ozzy and Rizo return back to camp, and they get filled in on everything that happened. Coach immediately goes to Rizo to his side and recruits him to the 4 Horsemen Alliance, which was previously Coach Jonathan, Joe, and Colby. And he invites Rizo to replace Colby, and he uses the words to replace Colby. And Rizo then says that he feels so valuable to the group, which was so funny. Rizo just went along with it. Obviously he has no alliance there really, but he's gonna use them if he can. Why not? Rizo goes to talk to Cirie about him and Ozzy bonding at Exile, and now he wants to go to Final 3 with himself, Ozzy, and Cirie. So that seems pretty solid. Emily goes to tell Rizo that Dee told her about his idol. Rizzo's annoyed at this and immediately goes to talk to Dee, and Dee says that she didn't tell Emily, but Dee did tell Emily, and not only did Dee tell Emily, but she also told Tiffany and Jonathan. So she's now scrambling, trying to fix her mistakes before it comes back to bite her. Dee goes to tell Tiffany and goes to try to save herself there. But it kind of creates a... Ooh, I didn't make a slide. Look at that. It kind of creates a divide between the two groups there, where Rizo is not fully sure if he can trust Dee anymore. At that point, a boat arrives at the beach. And it says that one person has to get on the boat and go on a journey. They decide to put all their shots in the dark into a bag and pull a name out of the bag because all the shots in the dark are labeled with their names. Which was honestly a smart choice. And Stephenie's name gets pulled and she goes on the boat, but she does not want to go, but she has to. So, on the journey, Stephenie, there's a challenge for Stephenie. She has to tether her hand to a bucket that's above her head and hold her hand up above her head for an hour to prevent the water from dumping on her head, and until the water empties out of the thing enough to where this pot falls and breaks. If she makes it for the full hour, then she will get the steal a vote advantage. And if she doesn't, then she loses her vote at tribal council. We get this whole segment of like reflecting back on Stephenie's survivor history and everything she's been through. And she talks about how she got a shoulder injury on Heroes vs. Villains during the first challenge. And how that's affecting her because she has to use her left arm instead of her right arm, even though she's a righty for this, because she can't hold her shoulder up above her on her right without it causing a problem. So she's going with her left arm and is not feeling super confident about it, but she ends up making it the full hour. She goes the full hour, makes it all the way through. And she gets the steal a vote advantage. Then back at camp, Stephenie tells the group what happened, but she doesn't tell them the full truth. She basically explains exactly what happened, with the exception being, at 30 minutes you get your vote back. If you make it a full hour, you get the advantage. She told them that she only made 30 minutes and got her vote back. That was not a thing in the game. She just lied about that. But it's smart, because now it sounds believable enough to where people aren't super suspicious of her, and she has an advantage no one else knows about. However, Cirie senses that she might be lying and not telling the truth. So Cirie kind of like confronts Stephenie about it, but doesn't really like push her at all. And Stephenie realizes that Cirie's onto her and just comes clean and tells Cirie about the steal a vote advantage. And Cirie tells her that she's not going to tell anyone. From Stephenie's perspective, I think this was the right choice. Only because if Stephenie hadn't told Cirie, then Cirie would want to be voting her out right now because of that. Whereas now she's not going to immediately vote her out. However, Cirie did immediately go tell Rizo about this and tells him to not tell anyone. So Cirie immediately broke her promise to Stephenie and just completely told someone immediately. Rizo in the same conversation talks to Cirie about the interaction he had with Dee earlier. And they're contemplating maybe voting Dee out there. Which is smart, I have to say, because Dee's a huge threat. She's the only winner left at this point. And she's now been sharing information of theirs that's secret information. So there's no reason to really keep her around from their perspective. So that's decently smart there. Then we go to the challenge. Now this challenge was split up. The teams were split up into two groups. There was an immunity and reward challenge. The winning group of the two groups won Chinese takeout, and also got to move on to the second part of the challenge, where it was individual immunity. One person would win and be safe from elimination. The group who ended up winning the challenge was Ozzy, Emily, Vic, Dee, Stephenie, Joe, and Christian. And then that group competed in the individual portion of the challenge, and Ozzy ended up winning individual immunity for the episode. So Ozzy's now safe, which I was very happy with if you see the draft, when you see the draft later, because he was my first pick. So Ozzy is now safe. Back at camp, the winning group there gets their takeout. Tiffany's complaining about how she doesn't like to lose and how she's hungry. Aubry says that she's planning on playing her idol tonight to kind of take the target off her back, because after not playing it like she said she would last time, Vic and Krishna are mad at her, so she just to get it out of the way, she's gonna play it no matter what. Number one, because then no one will vote for her, but also more importantly to her, she'll hopefully gain her integrity and trust back with Christian and Vic a bit more. Which I think is smart enough. It kind of takes the target off her back, because everyone also knows that she has an idol, so they're going to want to flush it, but if she doesn't have it anymore, then that's not a problem. So I think she made a good choice there. Jonathan, Coach, and Chrissy talk about getting Dee out. Coach proposes this plan. He wants to make a 7-4 split. Put 7 votes on Dee, 4 votes on Tiffany. Dee goes home. If Dee has something to save herself, then Tiffany goes home, and they're good. It's a good enough plan. Coach then goes to pitch this idea to Ozzy, Cirie, and Rizo. And Coach also goes and tells Rick, Joe, and Stephenie about this plan. And then Vic tells Christian about Coach's plan. And Coach had said that Christian's like, the quote that I have here is a flip-floppy person in the middle. Where I don't know why Coach necessarily thinks that Christian's gonna flip with Dee and Tiffany, but sure, I guess. And also why Vic's not a flip-floppy person in the middle, but Christian is. I will never know. But Coach finds out that someone told Christian and is pissed off about it and wants to know who told him. And Vic's standing right there as Coach is like, I don't even know, like, just completely losing it next to him about someone telling Christian. Vic's just sitting there like, I don't know, man. I definitely don't have anything to do with that. Nope, not me. Yeah, so that happened. Rizo then goes to Coach to try and calm him down, because while Rizo doesn't really want to work with Coach, he knows that Coach is a number for him, so he wants to keep Coach safe if possible. Coach then goes off to, like, I think to the hammock or something, or to a rock. She sits down somewhere, and he's talking to himself and just making haikus badly. These haikus were awful. They were not haikus. They didn't have the correct number of syllables per line. Is it syllables? What's the definition of a haiku? Hold on. We're learning. How do you spell haiku? Because I definitely didn't spell it right in my notes. Haiku. This is what we're doing. I almost spelled it right. A traditional form of Japanese poetry consisting of 3 unrhymed lines with a 5-7-5 syllable structure. I was right, it was syllables. So 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables in the different sentences, if you can call them sentences, to make a haiku. Coach did not have 5-7-5. Just kind of rambling and saying that was haiku, but it was not half the time. It's fine. It was entertaining. It was funny. It was especially funny that Emily and Rick were just kind of off and to the side watching this happen. And just laughing at him. Oh, sorry, not Emily and Rick. Jonathan and Emily were watching from the side. And then Emily and Vic go and talk about maybe trying to get Coach out instead. They tell Ozzy about the idea. He says he's okay with that. Tiffany also says that she'd be okay. Tiffany tells Dee about the plan to vote Coach out. And Dee says that she wants to cause total chaos at Tribal Council. The plan to vote Coach out spreads around camp before the group then arrives at Tribal Council. Alright. So we have, for the first time, a live Tribal Council. First live Tribal Council of the season. Basically what ends up happening is Dee, like she said she wanted to, gets up, goes over to Aubry, whispers something in Aubrey's ear, then goes to Ozzy and whispers something in his ear before sitting back down. And that causes a chain reaction that then leads to everyone running around, getting up, whispering to each other, figuring out what's going on. And it just kind of pure chaos. Then they end up, whoa, words are hard. Hey. This is a podcast. I'm not editing this. So you get to hear all my stumbling over words. It's so fun. Anyways. I apologize for my stupidity sometimes. But after all that, they go to vote. Aubry then ends up playing her idol, and Dee plays her shot in the dark. So what that means is that Dee has a 1 in 6 chance of being safe. Aubry is safe because she played her idol. If Dee did not vote in exchange for 1 in 6 chance of being safe, if she's safe, any votes for it will not count. If she's not, then the votes will still count. And Dee ends up being not safe. So then we get to the votes. And Coach ends up getting 1 vote that comes from Tiffany. Tiffany ends up getting 4 votes from Coach, Joe, Ozzy, and Stephenie. And then Dee ends up getting 8 votes from Chrissy, Aubry, Christian, Emily, Cirie, Jonathan, Rick, and Rizo. Which means that Dee is voted out of the game in an 8-4 vote, unlike Coach's 7-4 that he wanted. I don't know where that extra number came from. I don't know why Coach didn't just include that in his plan originally, but it's fine. Except for the fact that it's not fine. But here we have where I think, based off of how this episode went, where I think the alliances are currently sitting. I think Tiffany's kind of off by herself, which isn't necessarily a bad place to be. She can kind of float in the middle, choose which side she wants. I don't think either side... Well, actually, that's not true. Coach, Jonathan don't like her. But other than that, she's kind of free to go wherever she wants. Whereas if you're on one of the sides here, you're not a huge fan of the other one necessarily. Not that there's like huge disconnects, like Coach and Jonathan and Joe think they're working with Rizo, and Coach has a thing with Aubry, Stephenie has a thing with Ozzy. But like this is kind of sort of generally where the line is drawn. It's kind of drawn down the middle. There's 2 sides, and then Tiffany's kind of on her own. It's kind of what I'm saying. And there's the 3 with Ozzy, Cirie, and Rizo, and then Rizo and Ozzy have connections separately from each other with Emily. And Emily has connections with Christian, who then has a 3 with Rick and Aubry, so that's kind of amalgamated into one big group. And then on the other side, you have the coach of it all, where you have the 3 of the 4 horsemen with Coach, Jonathan, and Joe. Then Coach has a connection with Chrissy from back when he told her that she was being annoying. And Stephenie is connected there as well with Jonathan and Chrissy as well. So that's kind of that side. But again, there are some connections other than what's shown here. I mean, Stephenie and Ozzy have a connection first. Stephenie and Cirie have some kind of connection. Rizo and Coach and Jonathan and Joe have a connection. And it's not a good one, but it's a connection. Aubry has a thing with Coach. Tiffany has some minor connections here and there. Like this isn't end all be all, but it's kind of visual, to show kind of sort of what's happening, and what I think we should be expecting going into this episode. But then again, based off of my diagram from the end of last episode, Dee was kind of a central figure in everything, and now she's gone. So what do I know? The one thing I do know is predictions. And based off of this, I have predictions. I think Coach is out next episode. And actually, more specifically, I think Coach and Chrissy is out. There have been mumblings in the community about a twist next episode this Wednesday that will see the castaways being put into pairs or choosing pairs of their own, where they will compete in a challenge together as a pair, win immunity as a pair if they win, and then one pair will be voted out of the game together. I think Coach is likely to go out next. Chrissy is Coach's partner, therefore I think both of them are gone next. After that, I think it's not long before Joe goes. I think Joe's not playing a great game. I love Joe. Joe's one of my all-time favorite players, just personally. He means a lot to me on a personal level in what's happening in my life versus what he stands for and what I've seen him do on the show. So personally, because of that, he's just one of my favorites. So I'm sad to say that I don't think he's playing a great game. I still love him. But I don't think he's long for this, even though that ruins my I forget if it was it the Grammys that I don't even remember at this point. It was so long ago. So long ago. I hardly know when. That's a little musical theater reference for you who get it. Long, long ago. Anyways. Do you like my side tangents? It's great. Yeah. He's not long for this game, which ruins my Grammys, Oscars. I don't know what event they went to. Cirie, Ozzy, and Joe were sent to an event by CBS, and I thought that meant that they were going to go at least make it to the finale, if not be Final 3. In my original predictions, I had them in Final 3. But based off how Joe is playing and how much he's being shown in the episodes, I don't know about that anymore. And that was already kind of proven to be false when on Jimmy Fallon, instead of Joe, they replaced Joe with Charlie. And Charlie is nowhere to be seen. So that went out the window very quickly. Tiffany kind of being a floater right now is not usually a good place to be. Sometimes it works out very well for them, and you see those people go to the end and win the whole thing. It's happened. But most of the time it does not work out. Then I think Rick's next. Rick, for someone who was very prominently featured in the first few episodes, Rick has kind of disappeared into nothingness. He's not shown as much as he was. And I think that's not good news for Rick. On top of that, once the Coach Alliance is gone, right? Because at this point, according to my predictions, Jonathan and Stephenie are the only ones left on that side. Once that dissolves, it's going to become a game of who's next. And it's going to really be between the three of Cirie, Rizo, and Ozzy, or the three of Christian, Aubry, and Rick. And it's going to be decided by the people in the three in the middle of Stephenie, Jonathan, and Emily. And I think that the connections to those three players specifically are stronger on the Cirie, Rizo, Ozzy side than they are on the Christian, Aubry, Rick side. So I think Christian, Aubry, and Rick are going to be the next three targets. And they are all big targets, and they're a trio. So I think they're going to go out back to back to back for that reason. Christian seems to be the most main character of the three in both the edit and also how he's playing the game. So I think he's going to go the furthest out of the three of them, which is why I have him there. And then Aubry in 8th place, I think is... I feel like she's been more featured in the edit recently. But she's not... If I was watching Survivor 50 as a first-time viewer and I didn't know the history, I don't think I'd even know who Aubry is, I'll be honest, based off of how this show is going. And we are too far into the season to where... Because it's not... This season is not only being edited for the fans. They have to appeal to new viewers. And we are simply too far into the season to where if someone is not being heavily featured in some way relatively frequently, and you're at the point where you're sitting there not knowing who they are, they can't end up being the winner at this point, I don't think. And I think Aubry is one of those people where if I didn't know the show and know what she's done in the past and I'm a fan of Aubry, and didn't know everything she's done in past seasons, if I was watching 50 as a new fan, I don't think I know Aubry. I don't think I know Chrissy. I don't think I would have known Stephenie until this past episode. So it's just hard with that because of that. And that's my one concern with someone like Cirie, which I'll get to a little later, is I feel like as a new viewer, I don't know that much about Cirie this season. I love Cirie. I think she's great. Best player to never win. But as a new viewer, I don't think I would know any of that. I think I'd be sitting here like, who's this side character that we never see? And I would think nothing of her. Which is unfortunate, but it's how it is. And that's my one concern with Cirie right now, is I don't know that the editors are doing a good enough job showing her for her to end up winning it. But then we get to the final, what I have as my final 6, which in theory is the finale group, where we have Jonathan being the first boot of the finale, theoretically, if they do the 6-person finale like they normally do. He's a strong competitor. They're going to want to get him out. And at this point, he has the least ties to anyone left of the 6. And then Emily's going to go. People don't want to keep her around. She's too messy, too unreliable. So she's got to go there. And then I honestly do think that this 3 of Cirie, Rizo, and Ozzy is going to stick with each other. I don't think they're going to betray each other. So unless Stephenie pulls out a win at final immunity challenge, I think that she's being put to fire if there is a fire making challenge. We do not know if there will be a final 4 fire making challenge or not. It's up in the air. If there is, I think Stephenie is going to be put in unless she wins, and it's going to be against one of the other 3. If there's not a fire making challenge, I think Stephenie just goes home and there's nothing she can do about it. So that's kind of where that sits. And then out of the other 3, I think there's no world in which if Cirie makes it to final 3, she doesn't win. Because people just respect her too much, and you cannot sit next to Cirie in a final 3 and expect to win. So for that reason, I have her in first. I have Rizo second because I think he's out of the 3 of them. I think Rizo's playing the best game right now, which I was not expecting to ever say going into this season, but here we are. Things change. But I think he's playing the best game not only out of the 3 people here, but out of anyone on the season right now. So I think he's going to get second because of that, and the only reason he's not getting first is because Cirie's sitting there. I think Rizo beats anyone that's not named Cirie who's left in this game in a final 3. I'm going to be honest. I think if Rizo makes it to the end with these 3, he's not winning. But if Rizo realizes that and gets Cirie out before the final 3, I think Rizo is going to take the whole thing. And then Ozzy is left as the 3rd. I don't think Ozzy's going to get a single vote, I'm going to be honest, which is unfortunate for him, but it is what it is. All right. Heading over to the player draft standings, we have Paige's team with 109 points. She still got Cirie, who has an extra vote, which I just talked about. Cirie, she's a great pick. I wanted her as my first pick when we did this, but it's fine. I'm gonna say it every episode from now on. If I have Paige sitting on a call with me recording one of these, I'm still gonna say it. I don't care. I'll say it till the end. I got robbed by not having Cirie. I got robbed by a lot of other things, none of which were bad choices, by the way. Then she has the Vic and Christian duo, which was a crazy pull, and after episode 1, I was very scared of that. She has Stephenie, who now has a steal vote, and now is also emerging as the main character of the season. And we have Jonathan, who just made an incredible move today, and is kind of setting himself up to be well off in the future, hopefully. Then we have Aubry, who I just explained, I think is a great player, but is being underutilized this season. And I feel like that's not good news for her. And then we have Rizo, who I just was raving about how I think he's playing the best game out of everyone. And he has an idol. And we all know from 49 that Rizo, when he has an idol, is a dangerous person. So yeah, then there's Rizo there with an idol. And then rounding out Paige's team right now, we have Tiffany. Tiffany's an interesting one because she's either gonna go out within the next few episodes or she's gonna go all the way, and there's not really any in between. So I don't know what to make of Tiffany here, but I have a lot of thoughts on my team, so let's go over to it. We have my team with 113 points. So I am still winning by 4 points as of right now. Yep, 4 points. I do not think that's going to be the case because, as you just saw my predictions, I believe Coach and Chrissy are both going out literally next episode, and then Joe the episode following them, which in theory leaves me with 2 players. What is this bad luck that I got? I need to talk about this. I'm just going to go through all my players, all of them, including the ones who are out. I don't even care. Ozzy's in a good spot. He has a good alliance. I think he's going to make it far. I'm not worried about Ozzy. Joe, I love Joe. I love Joe with all my heart. He's definitively one of my favorites. But he is not playing a good game. And it kills me to say that, but he's not playing a good game at all. And it's rough. And then we have Colby, Mr. Foot Injury, gets voted out without a vote that he lost on like day 4 or something. And hasn't gotten back since. And got swap screwed on top of not having a vote. Just all around bad luck. Then we got Mike White, who Christian decided to get rid of. Then we have Coach, who is digging his own grave as we speak. Then we have Dee, who just... I don't even know how that happened this episode. Because everything leading up to it seemed like they were going to go Coach. Because everyone was getting annoyed with Coach. And they were talking about voting out Coach. And the only person I heard talking about voting Dee out was Coach and Jonathan. Everyone else seemed like they want to get Coach out. So I don't know what happened to cause Dee to go out over Coach. I wish Coach went instead of Dee. I know they're both my players. But quite frankly, I think Dee had more potential to make it further than Coach does. Sorry, Coach. But it's just the way the cookie crumbles. Yeah, Dee was a great player, and I think she had good potential. I don't know what happened. And then we have Chrissy, who was the most invisible person in this edit the entire season. Jenna was in more Survivor 50 than Chrissy is. So it's not looking good for Chrissy. And then we have Q, who also got swap screwed with no vote. That was great. I love when my players get swap screwed with no vote. It's great. Then we have Angelina, who Christian also just decided to get rid of, even though both her and Mike were numbers to him. Then we had Camilla, who got swap screwed. Then we have Genevieve, who got swap screwed and idol screwed. Talk about someone who'd be stacked if Billie Eilish didn't exist. If those idols weren't boomerang idols, she would have had 2 idols. And she would have been perfectly fine at that tribal council. Hell, she could have even saved Joe. I don't know if she would have, but she could have. Let's think about that. How different of a season it would be. Genevieve and Joe team up. Use an idol on both of them. And one of Christian, Rick, or Aubry is gone right now. That would be something. That would be something. I wish. That would be a great world. And if Genevieve didn't get screwed by Twist, it could have happened. That swap wouldn't have been so bad if she had some idols. She found 2. She found 2 idols. Didn't get to use either of them. Didn't even get to keep either of them. The show hates me. And then we have... And then we have Emily. Aiden Robalada's least favorite player, as we found out last week. Every time she makes a promise to not say something, she immediately goes and says something. It's the definition of not keeping your mouth shut. That's all she needs to do. All she needs to do is keep her mouth shut. And she doesn't. And she doesn't. Anyways. Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts. You know what? It's fine. Honestly, I don't think. I haven't run the math on it, which I probably should have done before this. I don't know that I can win. Unless I'm so very wrong about Coach and Chrissy going out next episode. I don't think I mathematically can win. Let me run the math. I'm going to run the math. Right here. Right now. Live. Ready? So, I'm going off the fact that Coach and Chrissy are going out next episode definitively, right? So, based on that, I have 4 plus 5 plus 6. Then 8, 9, 10, right? 11, This is just a bunch of numbers. If you want to know what numbers I'm yapping about, go back to the draft video. I explain the scoring system here. 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that right? Really? No. What am I doing wrong here? Let me just hold on. I'm going back to the placement board to help me. No, I'm right. And then 12, 13. We're gonna assume here, right? Coach and Chrissy go out next episode. Whatever. We're gonna assume for the purpose of this experiment. Let's just say the final 3 by some miracle is Ozzy, Joe, and Emily. Never gonna happen. But let's just assume that it happens, right? That would mean that I get the 27 for third, the 33 for second, and the 44 for first, which would leave my total points by the end of the draft, if that was to happen, at 182. And I'm very much assuming Coach and Chrissy are gone next episode. That's what this is based off of. So in that case, where those 2 are gone next episode, and my other 3 make it final 3, and Paige is player to player to player to player before then, I have 182 by the end of this. Let's see what Paige has by the end of this in that case scenario, because she has 1, 2, 3, because she had a bad start, but boy did she make up for it. Because then she has 7 for Charlie, and then in this case, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, she'd have 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Okay, so there's hope, because that would give her 153 points, which means there is a there is a way for me to win. Oh boy, I'm screwed. Do you see the amount of stretching I'm doing to find a world in which I win this? But hey, if I manage to win this somehow, that's a miracle. It's a miracle if I pull that out somehow. Yeah. All right. Well, that's just about gonna do it for this episode. Next week I'm hoping to have a guest on again, whether it's Aiden, whether it's Paige, whether it's someone else. I don't know. But we'll see what words are hard. But we'll see what happens. I also might have some news about something that's gonna be coming up in a few months here, relatively soon. Maybe next week, maybe the week after that. I don't know. But there's something brewing. There's something cooking in the back of my mind. Something I'm trying to get going here, and hopefully I'll have news for you on that soon to share. But until then, I've been your host, Anderson Ross, reminding you to be smart, be safe, and love one another. Take care.